J.D. Vance again stuck his foot in his mouth, saying that school shootings are just a fact of life. This is after the deadly shooting in Georgia. And he says, it just is. It is.
Now, look, the Kamala Harris answer to this is to take law-abiding American citizens' guns away from them. That is what Kamala Harris wants to do. She says, look, I don't like this. I don't like to admit this. I don't like that this is a fact of life. But if you are a psycho and you want to make headlines, you realize that our schools are soft targets. And we have got to bolster security at our schools so that a person who walks through the front door.
So he does as usual. You've got to harden the schools and double up the doors and add a second lock to the window and this entire thing. It's a fact of life, he says, yet no other developed country has this problem. It's not a fact of life in Canada or the UK or Spain or Australia or Hong Kong or, I'm trying to include, or Sweden. I'm trying to include a number of different types of governments, more and less authoritarian, more and less wealthy. It's not a fact of life in any of these places. It's only a fact of life in the types of countries that Trump would often refer to as shithole countries. And these are not the countries that we normally expect Republicans to equate us with. So, as usual, it's all about, I will say whatever I need to say to avoid dealing with the things that really matter here. Number one, put it anywhere in the list, but somewhere on the list, accessibility of firearms. It has to be on the list. Now, I am not so disconnected from reality that I am a get rid of the guns and we totally solve the issue altogether. We have a Second Amendment. We're not going to get rid of all the guns. But in addition to the gun part, we also need to deal with licensing, testing, and mandatory insurance. We also need to deal with the toxic gun culture of the United States, because there are lots of other countries. There are other countries, Switzerland is an example, where guns are more available than in some other countries. But culturally, you don't have as many people who think to themselves, oh, I have a problem. I have an emotional problem. I have a personal problem. I have an employment problem. I have a cultural problem. I'm going to take a gun and try to solve that problem. And so that's a part of it as well. We have a broken culture in this country, and it exists because of this gun culture that the right wing has generated. And I would also include in that mental health. Now, the little caveat with mental health, because Republicans love to say this is only a mental health problem. If you believe that mental health is part of the problem, then you must fully fund access to mental health treatment. And as many of you know, in combination, because of in some areas stigma, in other areas insurance company decisions, all sorts of different things. You need time off for therapy from work. Well, that's going to have to be unpaid. All this different stuff. We're also not even getting the people who say mental health is the primary issue to actually say, well, because we think it's the primary issue, here's how we're going to take it more seriously, make it more acceptable, et cetera. So I include mental health in it for sure, but I'm the one who actually wants to destigmatize mental health, make it more accessible. So J.D. Vance is disgusting. He's a horrible person. He's failing as a VP, but he's also laughably stupid or blind when he says it is a fact of life when it only seems to be a fact of life in the United States among Western wealthy developed countries. These people are truly disgusting. They must lose in November. Legally, of course. We must defeat them in November with a victory so big that they can't steal it. We have a fantastic bonus show for you today. We will talk about Putin's faux endorsement of Kamala Harris. We will talk about Dick Cheney saying he's voting for Kamala Harris. We will talk about Kamala Harris abandoning her previous suggestion to get rid of plastic straws. And I want to remind you, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, I will be live for the Trump-Harris debate. I hope that you will join me. Make sure you've pre-ordered my forthcoming book, The Echo Machine, available at davidpakman.com/echo and everywhere physical books, audiobooks, and ebooks are sold. And of course, remember that all 3 of my children's books, one on the scientific method, one on critical thinking, one on the importance of voting, they are all available at davidpakman.com/book. They make great stocking stuffers, Hanukkah gifts, everything. All right, I'll see you on the bonus show and then back here tomorrow.